People laugh at her, they whisper behind her back. They say, she has no friends, she must be lonely. But what they don't see is that she is not alone. Because when the world walked away, when people showed their true faces, when fake smiles turned into silent betrayals, she didn't break, she didn't beg, she didn't chase, she stood still, and she turned to God. And let me tell you something powerful today. A woman who learns to stand alone with God becomes unstoppable in a world full of temporary people. This message is for that woman who scrolls through her phone but has no one to text, who smiles in public but cries in private, who listens to everyone's problems but has no one who truly listens to her. You feel forgotten, you feel replaced, you feel like maybe something is wrong with you. But today I want to remind you of a truth that can change your life forever. You are not alone. You are never alone. Sometimes God removes people from your life not to punish you, but to protect your heart, your peace, and your purpose. And that silence you feel, that emptiness, it's not emptiness, it's space. Space where God is preparing you for something greater. Being alone is not a punishment, it is a preparation. And most people don't realize this until life forces them into silence. You wake up one day and things feel different. The calls stop coming, the messages become fewer. The people you once laughed with are now busy, distant, or simply gone. At first, it hurts. It feels like rejection. It feels like you are not enough. But what if this moment is not happening to break you, but to build you? Think about it. In your daily life, when you want to truly focus, whether it's studying for an exam, learning a skill, or working on something important, you naturally distance yourself from distractions. You turn off notifications, you find a quiet place, and you give yourself space. Why? Because growth needs focus, and focus needs solitude. In the same way, when God wants to elevate you, to strengthen you, to prepare you for something greater, He removes the noise, He removes the crowd. He places you in a season where it's just you and your thoughts. At first, that silence feels uncomfortable. You reach for your phone, hoping someone will check on you. You replay old conversations, wondering where things went wrong. But slowly, something powerful begins to happen. You start hearing yourself more clearly. Your thoughts become louder. Your awareness becomes sharper. You begin to understand what truly matters and what was just temporary. Look at your everyday routine. When you are surrounded by people all the time, it's easy to lose yourself. You adjust to fit in. You compromise your values to be accepted. You laugh at things that don't even make you happy. But when you are alone, there is no audience, there is no pressure, there is only truth. And in that truth, you rediscover who you really are. Maybe you start spending time improving yourself. You wake up earlier, you reflect more, you become more disciplined. You realize that you don't need constant validation to feel worthy. You begin to enjoy your own company, and that is a powerful shift. Because the moment you stop needing others to feel complete is the moment you become strong. Think about a simple example. A woman who once depended on her friends for every decision, what to wear, where to go, what to do, now finds herself alone. At first she feels lost, but then she starts making her own choices. She decides her own path. She trusts her own judgment. And slowly, she becomes confident, not because someone told her she is, but because she proved it to herself. This is what preparation looks like. It doesn't always feel good, it doesn't always look beautiful, but it is necessary. Just like a seed must be buried in darkness before it can grow into a tree, you must go through a period of isolation before you can rise. No one sees the seed struggling underground. No one sees the seed struggling underground. No one applauds it. But that hidden struggle is what gives it the strength to break through the surface later. In your daily life, you might notice that during your hardest, loneliest moments, you actually grow the most. You become more patient because you have no one to rely on immediately. You become more creative because you have to solve your own problems. You become more resilient because you learn to handle pain without running away from it. And the most powerful part is this: you begin to build a connection with God that is deeper than ever before. When people are around, it's easy to depend on them. But when they are gone, you turn inward. You start praying more sincerely, thinking more deeply, trusting more completely. You realize that even when no human understands you, God always does. That realization gives you a kind of strength that no friendship can replace. So instead of asking, "Why am I alone?" start asking, "What is this season teaching me?" Instead of seeing it as emptiness, see it as training. Training for a stronger mindset, a stronger heart, a stronger faith. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to go with you to your next level. Some people are only part of your past, not your future. And when the preparation is complete, things will change. You will meet new people, better people, people who align with who you have become. But this time, you won't be desperate for their presence. You won't lose yourself trying to keep them. You will stand strong, knowing your worth, knowing your direction. So if you find yourself alone today, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't chase distractions just to escape the feeling. Sit with it, learn from it, grow through it, because this is not the end of your story. This is the part where you are being shaped into someone stronger, wiser and unshakable.
And one day, you will look back at this lonely chapter and realize it was not loneliness at all. It was preparation.
Not everyone deserves access to your life, and the moment you truly understand this, your life begins to change in a powerful way. Most people grow up believing that more friends mean more happiness, that being surrounded by people means you are valued. But real life teaches something very different. It teaches that not everyone who smiles with you is for you, not everyone who talks to you respects you, and not everyone who stays around you deserves a place in your heart. Look at your daily life. How many times have you given your time to people who didn't appreciate it? How many times have you listened to someone's problems, supported them, stood by them, only to realize that when you needed them, they were unavailable? This is where the lesson begins. Access to your life is not something that should be given freely to everyone. It is something that should be earned, respected, and protected. Think about your personal space like your home. You don't open your door to every stranger and say, "Come in, sit wherever you like, take whatever you want." No, you are careful. You observe. You decide who is trustworthy and who is not. In the same way, your life, your energy, your emotions, these are even more valuable than any home. Yet many people give full access to anyone who shows them a little attention. In everyday situations, this shows up in small but powerful ways. A woman might keep replying instantly to someone who only texts her when they are bored. She might cancel her own plans just to be available for people who never prioritize her. She might tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. But every time she does this, she is silently telling herself, "My time is not valuable. My peace is not important." And that is where the real damage happens. Not from others, but from within. Now imagine a different approach. Imagine waking up and deciding that your energy is precious, that your time has value, that not everyone gets the same version of you. You start observing people instead of immediately trusting them. You notice who supports you genuinely and who only shows up when they need something. You begin to set boundaries, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. For example, in daily life, someone might call you only when they have problems. Before, You would drop everything and listen for hours. Now, you still show kindness, but you also protect your time. You don't let their urgency become your burden. You help, but you don't lose yourself.
That is strength. That is growth.
Or think about those people who constantly bring negativity into your life, complaining, gossiping, draining your energy. Before you might have stayed silent, afraid of losing the connection, but now you start creating distance. You choose peace over unnecessary drama. You see growth over comfort. And slowly, your environment begins to change. This doesn't mean you become cold or heartless. It means you become wise. You understand that kindness does not mean allowing disrespect. You understand that being a good person does not mean being available to everyone at all times. You realize that the right people will respect your boundaries, not challenge them. There is also a powerful shift that happens inside you. When you stop giving everyone access, you start valuing yourself more. You stop chasing people's approval. You stop trying to prove your worth. Instead, you start investing in yourself, your goals, your peace, your connection with God.
And that inner focus builds a kind of confidence that no external validation can give. In daily life, this confidence shows in your decisions.
You no longer say yes when you mean no. You no longer tolerate behavior that disturbs your peace. You no longer feel guilty for choosing yourself. And the most beautiful part is, you start attracting better people into your life, not because you chased them, but because your standards changed. Understand this clearly. When you lower your standards to keep people, you lose yourself. But when you raise your standards, you may lose some people, but you find your true self. And that is always worth it. Sometimes letting go of certain people will feel painful. You will remember the memories, the conversations, the moments you shared. But remind yourself, history is not a reason to hold on to what is hurting you. Growth requires courage. Growth requires courage. It requires you to walk away from what feels familiar but is no longer right. And when you do this, something powerful happens. You create space. Space for better connections, for healthier relationships, for people who truly value you. But most importantly, you create space for peace. And peace is something no crowd can give you if the wrong people are around you. So in your everyday life, start small. Pay attention to how people make you feel. Notice who respects your time and who wastes it. Observe who celebrates your growth and who feels threatened by it. And then make a choice, not based on fear of being alone, but based on respect for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how many people you have in your life. It's about who you have and how they treat you. And once you understand that not everyone deserves access to you, you stop living for others and start living with purpose, strength, and dignity. God becomes closest when people are farthest. And this is a truth that many people only understand after they've gone through moments of deep silence and loneliness. The Peksafif, gone through moments of deep silence and loneliness. When life is full of noise, conversations, and constant interaction, it's easy to forget this connection. People become your comfort, your distraction, your support system. You rely on them for validation, for advice, for emotional strength. But when those people slowly disappear, when the calls stop, when the messages fade, when the presence you once depended on is no longer there, that's when something powerful begins. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You sit alone and your mind starts racing. You wonder why people left, what you did wrong, why things changed. You try to fill the silence by scrolling endlessly, watching videos, distracting yourself just to avoid facing that emptiness. But no matter how much you try, the silence returns. And in that silence, there is something waiting for you. Not pain, not weakness, but a deeper connection that you may have ignored before. In daily life, Think about how often you are surrounded by noise. From the moment you wake up, there is something playing: notifications, conversations, responsibilities, people talking, opinions everywhere. In that constant noise, it becomes difficult to hear your own thoughts, let alone feel the presence of God. But when people step back from your life, when your circle becomes smaller, when your environment becomes quieter, something shifts. That noise disappears, and suddenly you are left with clarity. This is where the real transformation begins. You start to notice things you never paid attention to before. You begin to reflect more. You think about your purpose, your direction, your choices, and slowly you start turning towards God, not out of habit, but out of sincerity. Your prayers become deeper, not because you memorized words, but because your heart finally has something real to say. For example, in everyday life, a woman who once shared everything with her friends now finds herself keeping things to herself. At first, it feels heavy, but then, instead of bottling it up or forcing conversations with people who don't understand her, she begins to speak to God. She sits quietly, maybe at night when everything is still, and she opens her heart. No judgment, no interruption, no misunderstanding, just honesty. And in that moment, she feels something she didn't feel before: peace. This peace doesn't come from people agreeing with her or comforting her. It comes from knowing that she is being heard by the one who truly understands her. And that feeling is different. It is stronger, it is more stable, because people can leave, people can change, people can misunderstand. But God's presence remains constant. In your daily routine, you may start noticing small changes. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone, when you feel low, you pause, you breathe, you reflect, you turn your thoughts towards God. When something goes wrong, instead of complaining to everyone around you, you first seek guidance internally. This doesn't mean you stop connecting with people. It means your first source of strength becomes something deeper, something unshakable. There is also a powerful clarity that comes with this connection. When people are around, their opinions often influence your decisions. You start doubting yourself, overthinking, trying to please everyone. But when you are alone with God, your decisions become clearer. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are not seeking approval. You are simply trying to do what feels right, what aligns with your values, what brings you peace. Think about those moments in life when you felt completely lost, when no one understood you, when advice from others only confused you more. And then, in a quiet moment, something inside you guided you, a thought, a feeling, a sense of direction. That is the closeness of God. That is the closeness of God. It doesn't always come with loud signs or dramatic changes. Sometimes it comes as a quiet certainty in your heart. This closeness also builds strength. When you rely only on people, your strength becomes dependent on their presence. If they leave, you feel weak. But when you build a connection with God, your strength becomes independent. Even if the whole world steps back, you still feel supported. You still feel grounded. You still feel guided. In everyday situations, this strength shows itself in how you handle challenges. You don't panic as easily. You don't feel as desperate for someone to fix things for you. You trust that whatever is happening has a purpose, even if you don't fully understand it yet. And that trust gives you patience. It gives you resilience. Over time, you begin to appreciate this phase of life. What once felt like loneliness now feels like protection. What once felt like emptiness now feels like space for growth. You realize that if people had stayed, you might have never discovered this deeper connection. You might have continued depending on temporary support instead of building some.
Breathing eternal within yourself. And when people do come back into your life, Or when new people enter, you interact with them differently.
You no longer expect them to fill your emptiness because you are no longer empty. You are already full, with peace, with clarity, with strength. Their presence becomes a bonus, not a necessity. So when people are far, don't rush to fill that gap with distractions or the wrong company. Don't see it as an abandonment. See it as an invitation. An invitation to slow down, to reflect, to connect with God in a way you never have before. Because sometimes the greatest blessing is not in having more people around you, but in discovering that even when no one is there, you are never truly alone. Stop chasing people who don't choose you and understand this deeply, not just as a sentence, but as a principle you live by every single day. Because one of the biggest reasons people feel exhausted, unappreciated, and emotionally drained is not because they don't have love to give, but because they keep giving it to the wrong people. Look at your daily life carefully. How often do you find yourself waiting for someone's reply? Checking your phone again and again, hoping they finally text back. How often do you adjust your schedule just to fit into someone else's time, even when they never do the same for you? These are not small habits. These are signs. Signs that you are chasing someone who is not choosing you. And chasing is not always obvious. It doesn't always look like running after someone physically. Sometimes it looks like over-explaining yourself just to be understood. Sometimes it looks like always being the one who starts the conversation. Sometimes it looks like ignoring disrespect just to keep the connection alive. But every time you do this, you slowly lose a part of your self-respect. Think about a simple situation. You send a message, hours pass, no reply. But you see them active, posting, engaging with others. In that moment you feel confused. You start making excuses for them. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they forgot. Maybe I'm overthinking. But deep down you know the truth. When someone values you, they make time. Not excuses, not delays. Time. Now imagine a different response. Instead of sending another message, instead of trying harder, instead of lowering your standards, you pause, you step back. You remind yourself that your worth is not dependent on someone else's attention. That moment of pause is powerful because it breaks the pattern. It stops the cycle of chasing. In everyday life, this applies in so many ways. A woman might always be the one calling her friends, checking on them, making plans, while they rarely do the same. She might keep showing up for people who never show up for her. And she tells herself, I'm just being a good person. But there is a difference between kindness and self-neglect.
Being a good person does not mean forgetting yourself. When you stop chasing, something uncomfortable happens first. You feel the distance.
You notice who stops reaching out. You see clearly who was only responding, not initiating. And that truth can hurt. But that pain is necessary because it shows you reality, not illusion. And once you see clearly, you gain power. Because now you can make a choice. You can either continue the old pattern or you can choose yourself. Choosing yourself means setting a new standard in your daily behavior. It means you don't beg for attention anymore. It means you don't explain your value to someone who refuses to see it. It means you don't try to convince people to stay. You let their actions speak and you respond with dignity. For example, if someone repeatedly cancels plans with you, instead of adjusting again and again, you stop offering your time so easily. You respect your own schedule. If someone only talks to you when they need something, you stop being constantly available. You help when it feels right, but you don't make yourself a convenience. This shift changes everything. Not just your relationships, but how you see yourself. Because the moment you stop chasing, you start attracting, not by force, not by effort, but by energy. When you respect yourself, you naturally create boundaries, and those boundaries filter out the wrong people. There is also a deep sense of peace that comes with this. Chasing creates anxiety. You are always thinking, always waiting, always hoping. But when you let go, your mind becomes calm. You are no longer controlled by someone else's behavior.